Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. You see him on War Stories on Fox. He joins us now via telephone here on America's Forum. Colonel North, we are very happy to have you here, sir.
Brother, it's great to be back with you. I'd like to be with you on Skype. However, I had my eyes dilated this morning for an eye test before I go back overseas, so I kind of look like Rocky Raccoon.
Well, it might be an interesting visual image, and Colonel North, you have such a way with words. I can almost see that right now. But regardless of the eye treatment, if you will, practically speaking and poetically speaking, you can take a clear look at what is going on in the Ukraine. The pro-Russian protesters, the ethnic Russians, getting more aggressive in the eastern part of the Ukraine. What do you think is going to transpire?
Well, it's clear that the seizure of the Crimea was just the first step in what Vladimir Putin has decided is the new form of Putinism. It's not going to be the same as communism. He's never going to be able to rebuild the evil empire as it once was. But he clearly intends to make sure that he's able, in this case, to get land access to the military facilities that Russia really does need in the Crimea. I mean, look, the military bases there are essential to his access to the Black Sea and ultimately to the Mediterranean. They've got another naval base at Tartus in Syria that they've pledged to Assad that he's going to keep open. And, of course, that's the base where, ostensibly, the chemical weapons are due to be evacuated from Syria. Of course, all that's part of the deal that put Vladimir Putin back into the driver's seat in the Middle East. What Putin really wants is to protect Russia's borders. He did a 4.5-hour-long Q&A with a very sympathetic interviewer on Russian television yesterday that carried over and is being rebroadcast as we speak, telling the Russian people that he's got the authority from the Russian Duma, their legislature, to be able to go ahead and deploy and commit Russian military. What's been happening, and it's been happening since the Olympics were going on, totally missed by our intelligence services, totally missed by the Obama administration. What's been going on is his plan to expand Russia's, if you will, sphere of influence, establish hegemony over the areas that he needs in order to protect his military bases in the Ukraine. What he's doing right now is fomenting the kind of discontent that's going to give him, if you will, a pretext for sending in Russian troops to, quote, protect the Russian population. Now, theoretically, the United Nations and the UN and the NATO leaders and the EU leaders are all going to get together and say, boy, if you cross this red line, this line in the sand, we're going to do some really tough stuff to you. I don't believe it. I don't believe it because there is no leadership coming out of Washington on this. Washington has refused to provide military assistance of any meaningful kind at all to the Ukrainians. They missed the opportunity, in fact, rebuffed the opportunity to give Ukraine a fast track to get into NATO back in 2009 during the so-called reset. And so what you're seeing is a continuing pandering to Vladimir Putin by Washington and the Europeans, which are absolutely desperate for hydrocarbon fuel, both oil and natural gas, coming out of Russia. 11 major pipelines flowed through the Ukraine. They don't dare shut it off unless the Russians tell them to shut it off, because Ukraine gets some hard currency from the transit rights. He's going to have to do something to protect the land route to Crimea. My guess is he's hoping for some kind of, quote, diplomatic solution, unquote, and that diplomatic solution would be to concede, Ukraine would concede essentially what is eastern and southern Ukraine to Russian control.
Colonel North, you have laid out an insightful picture of what is going on. By any chance, can you stay with us through the break, because there's some more we really need to discuss with you if your schedule can accommodate.
Let's do it. We'll do it.
Colonel North, we know we can always count on you. From my days in Washington when I was serving in the Congress, I've always appreciated your perspective, and we will be back more with Oliver North on what is transpiring in the Ukraine, and also that Very interesting television appearance by Vladimir Putin.
And it appears now we're getting some updates. There might be some movement on this diplomatic solution, but what would it really mean and what did the U.S. give up in return? We'll talk about that with Colonel North when we come right back after this. You can always reach out to us on social media as well. Find us on Twitter @NewsmaxTV, #AmericasForum, and email us to connect@newsmaxtv.com.